That was a wild, crazy, hectic NFL trade deadline. We are now, Zach, 4 minutes live here on Jets Final Drive, past when the deadline was over. That is 4 p.m. We'll see if any deals trickle in. I did just send a text message over to the Jets to see if they can confirm that Breece Hall and Jermaine Johnson were not traded. It doesn't appear like that is the case. Not the case, though, for Sauce Gardner, who is now a member of the Indianapolis Colts, and Quinnen Williams, who is now a member of the Dallas Cowboys. Dude, I'm going to be honest. This trade deadlines in the NFL usually feel like they just come and go, and there's like minor little moves here and there. I felt like we were covering free agency again, where every minute you were just waiting to see if something was going to come, something was going to come, something was going to come.
I mean, I'd watch a movie about Darren Mougey in his office, like a Moneyball style, minute by minute. What was going on over, because I mean, I think they were working right up until the deadline there. Breece Hall actually just tweeted, he said, "Sick about my brothers, man, happy for them, but I'm sick right now." So, I mean, I imagine that's a lot of the reaction in the locker room. I think there's a lot of shock in there, especially with the Sauce one. But Quinnen was a leader on this team. So, you know, this is a new day for the Jets. Like, they have turned the page on the 2025 season, and I mean, I would argue they turned the page on the 2026 season, because I don't see a scenario unless they, you know, outkick their coverage that they're going to be good next year either. So, you know, this is a long-term rebuild, and I don't think Mougey makes these trades unless he has the go-ahead from Woody Johnson. So I think this is a regime that is playing the long game, like fully playing the long game right now. All they said about winning now, you know, maybe they believed it before the season. They don't believe it now. This is about the future.
Yeah, well, starting 0-7 tends to
a little bit
redirect the old compass. All right, I actually don't know if we're supposed to do this, but we're going to do like we start every single show with the first segment of What Have We Learned, presented by Monmouth University. Zach, you go first. What did you learn from this NFL trade deadline, unless that's it, the Jets have turned the page?
I mean, I would say I learned that Darren Mougey is willing to trade anybody. So, I mean, I think that's official. Like, that we can declare that. Like, you know, I don't know that Joe Douglas is willing to trade everybody, and that's not a negative or a positive. I just think he maybe wasn't willing to trade Sauce Gardner or Garrett Wilson, whereas Darren Mougey he inherited these players, and he's not tied to them ultimately.
I learned that the Jets are going to have to hit home runs in these coming next two NFL drafts, because the one thing, and we're going to get to this in a bit here, Zach, when you trade players like the Jets did in Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner, two players who play premium positions, who do things that few in the world can, who are two of the best at their respective positions, and you could probably make the case that they're two of the better NFL defenders no matter the position across the league, without clear-cut, obvious replacements behind them, you now need to use the draft compensation you get back from them to replenish what you just lost in Williams and Gardner. So this is not going to be something where they can afford to miss at all with these 4 first-round picks they now have the next 2 years, and 2 or 3 second-round picks. We'll go over that number in a second, the 3 second-round picks. They're going to have to hit this. They desperately, desperately, desperately need to hit the next 2 drafts out of the park with a home run. All right, so for those of you guys who are rejoining us on JFD, we did come your way live or shortly thereafter when the Jets traded Sauce Gardner. We broke that down a ton. We are going to get to that in a little bit here in the show. But the one that I really wanted to touch upon to start here, Zach, was Quinnen, because that was the one that happened in real time when we were on air. A little bit of a thought that we knew it was coming for a bit. So just to kind of lay the groundwork of what we know from the Quinnen Williams, from where this guy was a fan favorite, cornerstone of the franchise, defensive captain, to somebody that was ultimately now shipped away for a first and second round pick to the Dallas Cowboys. I was told all the way back in week 1, 2-ish, I want to say early September, that there were actually conversations between the Jets and the Dallas Cowboys centered around a Micah Parsons for Quinnen Williams trade. So the original Quinnen, Dallas, Jets conversation dates all the way back to then. Now, the Jets fell out of those sweepstakes when they realized what they were going to have to pay Micah Parsons. That was not something they were willing to do. But still, the communication between Williams and the Cowboys, I'm told, and then the Cowboys and the Jets has continued and continued and continued. Now, originally, and you and I can both touch upon this, the Jets were very adamant and vehemently denied any notion that they would even consider trading Quinnen Williams. It was not going to happen. He was a borderline untouchable. Or as you reported, Zach, they were going to have to be blown out of the water in order for them to move Quinnen Williams off of this team. that kind of was the stance for a while, I would say, up until this weekend, because on Sunday I got a text message from a source with the Dallas Cowboys who told me that the conversations with the Jets and the Cowboys had shifted. It was no longer blow us away. It was, let's come to terms on an agreement and you can have Quinnen Williams. Now, when I took that to the Jets and I said, hey, any truth to this? I was told, quote, we are not trading Quinnen Williams. We are not trading Quinnen Williams. Obviously, that was a lie because the Jets then did trade Quinnen Williams for a first and a second round pick. But I think what people didn't necessarily know, and Zack, you can expand on this now, Quinnen Williams was very, very, very upset with the Jets. He was not happy within that locker room. He wasn't particularly fond of Aaron Glenn. He was sick and tired of the losing. He had made those frustrations well known to those close to him and around him, so much so that he requested a trade 3 different times with the Jets. New York finally granted here by sending to the Cowboys, and they did get a pretty good haul.
Yeah, this was something that, think back to what he tweeted when Aaron Rodgers was cut. He said, guess I'm in for another rebuild or whatever the tweet was. And as it turns out, he was predicting accurately because this is a rebuild. So, it's hard to blame him for his frustration ultimately. And I think part of that played into maybe why they, decided to ultimately trade him. If they hadn't traded him before this deadline, I would have spent the second half of the season predicting that he will not be a Jet next year because I don't think he would have wanted to be here. He would have had the contract coming up where he doesn't have any non-guaranteed money, or he has very little guaranteed money in the coming years of that deal. And I don't think the Jets were very willing to redo his contract. So, this was always headed toward a divorce. I wasn't sure if it would happen now or in the future. I think at the end of the day, I think some fans are going to retroactively criticize him in ways that I don't think he deserves, because I think he has been a pretty great player, pretty great leader. And he developed from early in his career where he wasn't producing to becoming an all-pro and becoming a key part of why this defense was as good as it was. But at the end of the day, Darren Mougey decided he didn't view him as a part of the future, and he valued the first-round picks more than having Quinnen Williams in the locker room and on the roster.
And I do believe, and this is from talking to sources very, very close to Quinnen, that this relationship between the Jets and him wasn't irreparable. There was a means early on, not at this point, where the last 48 to 72 hours, it was irreparable. Quinnen was done. He was absolutely 100% done with the Jets and wanted out. So much so that I was told from sources close to Williams that he let the Jets know he had zero intention of signing any form of a contract extension with them. He was done and he wanted out, and he was just asking them, do me a favor after everything basically I've done for you guys, send me away now. Let's call a spade. You're not going to the playoffs, let's go. The Jets' apprehension with him, I was told that they told him they didn't like the message that would send to the locker room, that they were not super fond on what trading Quinnen in the middle of the season because of what he meant to this team, how that would be received by the rest of the organization. Now, again, getting a first and a second round pick back for him, that's a serious haul. So that definitely dampens some of the, oh my God, how do you do this? It's not like they traded him away for a 2 or a 2 and a 4. A 1 and a 2 is significant draft capital. Yeah. So they got a real big haul here. But I do believe, Zack, that this could have been fixed months ago if after the Jets paid Sauce and then after the Jets paid Garrett, Williams essentially went to the Jets and said, look, I'm young, I'm playing at a supremely high level, I'm still one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL. I have only $5 million remaining in guaranteed money the rest of the way here. Can we rework this contract, either with an extension or convert base salary to guaranteed money, something like that? And I was told that those requests were completely rebuffed, that it was not something the Jets were interested in. It was not something the Jets had any desire to do. And there were some people that I talked to who questioned whether Williams was ever going to receive a contract extension at all from the Jets, considering they already paid him once. Did they really want to pay him again? That was what started it going down the tube. If the Jets were winning football games, it probably could have been punted or kicked at least to the offseason. But when he wasn't getting paid, he didn't feel loved, he didn't feel respected, and then it got to this point, that's when Quinnen was like, get me out of here, and that's what the Jets did.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what you just said at the end there is important because I think it was a combination of everything. It wasn't just the money. I think the money part was probably like, okay, I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of all the problems I've got to deal with here. Pay me.
Basically, like Miles Garrett in Cleveland. $50 million makes you forget a lot.
Yeah. And my point being, like, Quinnen Williams was very close to the previous coaching staff. Like, I mean, Aaron Whitecotton in Dallas, Jeff Ulbrich in Atlanta, even Robert Saleh to a degree with the 49ers now. Like, these are all coaches that he was very close with, and I would say that he's kept in touch with since they left. Like, that's how you know he's close with them. Like, so all the talk about, like, certain guys not liking that coaching staff, like, I don't think he was one of them. And so they replace his coaching staff. They have, you know, a hard-nosed coach and Aaron Glenn come in who, you know, I don't think guys like him like really appreciated the way everything was blown up and it became just Aaron Glenn's show, my way or the highway, that kind of situation. I'm not saying everybody's like turned on Aaron Glenn or anything. I just think a guy like Quinnen was like, how many times do I have to do this with a new coach coming in, laying down the law, and then I have to deal with that for 3 years where we're bad, and then we finally start competing, and then it falls apart again. Like, I just think he was just tired of all of it. And, you know, he deserves a change of scenery. Like, at the end of the day, like, you know, I think mutually this probably is best for all parties. The Jets, in the end, like they were telling you, they were telling me that they weren't going to trade him. I don't know if that was ultimately accurate.
Literally, exactly. We showed it up on the breaking news segment, Zack. I saw the phone log is right here. On Saturday, I called about Quinnen Williams requesting a trade. That Quinnen Williams had requested a trade and that the Dallas Cowboys were talking to him. And I was told, direct quote, "We are not trading Quinnen. We are not trading Quinnen, not happening." That was Saturday. Sunday was when I got a text from the Cowboys saying, "Hey, so I know what they're telling you, but we're literally in negotiations right now to try to get this done." Like, this is no longer like, "Oh, you want Quinnen? Yeah, give me 7 first-round picks and also naming rights to your firstborn." It was no longer that. It was like, "All right, you want Quinnen, we have Quinnen, how can we get this done?" That was on Sunday, and then here we are on Tuesday with the deal done.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, these guys aren't under any obligation to tell us what's actually going on. But, you know, I felt pretty confident that they were going to hold fast with, you know, we're only going to trade them for blown away. And you could argue they were blown away. What I was told is we maybe if they blow us away with like 2 or 3 first-round picks, they'll trade them. That's not what happened. But, you know, the sauce side of it was the multiple first-round picks trade. I mean, it's pretty crazy to look at how many draft picks they have going forward these next few years. So that's like, at the end of the day, Mougey just saw an opportunity, and Aaron Glenn, like, he has a hand in all these decisions, by the way. A very heavy hand, I would say. I think these trades are Darren Mougey. Aaron Glenn. Yeah, but I'm saying
he runs the show. This is a coach-run organization. Yes,
of course. Yeah. But I'm saying Darren Mougey is the one negotiating these trades and the draft picks they're getting back for them. He's the one making those calls. Anyway, my point being, they saw this as an opportunity to really build the roster in their image. They clearly don't view a lot of what they inherited as their guys. Maybe Garrett Wilson is one of the only ones. And we can get into some of the guys that they didn't trade that maybe I was a little surprised about. But, yeah, I mean, they are taking completely over, and they're putting their stamp on this organization. And look, at the last time they had 3 first-round picks, they got Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and Jermaine Johnson. They didn't win any games with those guys, but those are 3 really good draft picks. So, you know, if you want to replenish the roster, that's the way to do it. But you also now have to replace 2 star players.
And it is, you're exactly right. And the point is the Jets did trade away some big names here. As one, I remember I was over at the Jets at practice a couple weeks ago and was talking to somebody over there, and they said, yeah, like, these guys are all big names. They look up in the stands, they see their jerseys. We also haven't won anything with them. Like, we've won nothing with these players. So maybe it does make sense to deal some guys and get some compensation back, and that's what will end up happening. And certainly with Williams being gone, that is a big one, because he was, you know, a player who's kind of been the face of this team for a very, very long time, and a Mike Maccagnan draft pick who was tenured and all that fun stuff.
The last Maccagnan draft pick left, so there's none left now.
Yeah, all gone. Maccagnan knew. He's in Dallas. Quinnen is, like I said, Zack, aside from the Jets just continually telling us we're not going to do it, and then ultimately doing it, the one that was surprising, the one that did take me back significantly was Sauce, because I did not see this one coming whatsoever. All of us have people that we talk to around the league, and the longer that you do this, the longer that you cover the NFL, especially hands-on like you and I are as beat writers, reporters who are with the team, you meet people, and then those people don't always stay with the team, but then they leave. And when they go to other teams, you still maintain those relationships. And then they introduce you. And you end up, that's how you build a Rolodex of people that you know across the NFL. you build a good enough relationship with people that eventually when they hear things on the teams you cover, they call and they tell you. And they say, hey, I just heard blah, blah, blah. Hey, I just heard blah, blah, blah. That's one of the reasons why we got picked up on the Quinnen Williams news. That's why we knew about the second-round pick going to the Jermaine Johnson, or the Chiefs being the team that offered the pick for Breece Hall. Like, you find out about all these things because you hear about people on other teams. Sauce Gardner flew wildly under the radar. There was no inkling. There was no signs. There was no anything. Now, I will say that a source did reach out to me and tell me that this coaching staff had soured some on Gardner. Not that they hated him. Again, if they didn't get 2 first-round picks and a former second-round pick in the trade, they're not trading Sauce Gardner, but at least he wasn't viewed as an untouchable like some other players on this roster. 2 first-round picks, A.D. Mitchell, Sauce Gardner is gone. My only criticism of this, Zach, because again, you got the Hall back, is that Sauce Gardner, maybe he's not the number 1 overall corner in the NFL, he's still an elite level corner, top 5, top 10 at the minimum. You now have a void of that on a defense that needs help in the secondary. You do. Brandon Stevens, A.Z. Thomas are your number 1 and 2 guys with then Brownlee rotating in there. You now need a legitimate number 1 corner. You're going to have to go find one. You're probably going to have to find him in the draft. So you got picks back for Gardner, yes, but now you need to use those picks to hopefully go find Gardner. And I don't know if you're going to go draft somebody that's a 2-time first-team All-Pro like you found in Sauce.
I mean, Quinnen Williams is also at a premium position. He's a dominant defensive tackle, so you have to replace both of those.
He wanted gone, though.
No,
the difference is that
I know, I'm aware. I'm just saying in terms of like having to replace these guys now, you have to replace both of them. Like you don't have to replace one of them. So, yeah, that's at the end of the day, like you said, like he wasn't untouchable. And so if this coaching staff loved him, they would not have traded him even for multiple first-round picks. Like you don't trade a guy you just signed, even if you get blown out of the water with an offer. Like the Broncos are not taking phone calls on Patrick Surtain. Like a team could call them and offer 3 first-round picks right now, and I don't think the Broncos are taking it. Like that's the reality. So the Jets clearly did not like Sauce Gardner as much as maybe the previous regime did, and so they traded him, and they got back 2 firsts, and they got back Adonai Mitchell, the receiver, who we haven't really talked about. I mean, I know he's not the most exciting, but he is going to play a lot on this team the rest of the season. So, yeah, I mean, it's a risky trade in that you have to now draft players that live up to it. I will say, having this, cavalcade of draft picks available to them, if they use these picks and they go and get a quarterback and that quarterback becomes the first franchise quarterback the Jets have had in decades, then this was all worth it. Like at the end of the day, you get the quarterback. That's all that really matters. I mean, obviously you want to have an environment around him that's supportive, and they do agree. I think the offensive line is not terrible. I think they have Garrett Wilson, who we'll see what happens with Breece Hall. You have Mason Taylor. Like it's an environment that a rookie quarterback could step into, and it's not the worst environment. We don't know about this coaching staff, but if they use these picks to get the quarterback, then yes, great job. But if they use these picks and A, the quarterback doesn't work out, and B, the other players they draft don't work out, then we're going to look back on this and say, it was a mistake making that trade ultimately. So,
the Jets draft capital right now after trading Quinnen Williams and then Sauce Gardner, talking about the first 3 rounds of the draft. I don't really care about day 3 picks. 2 first-round picks in 2026, 2 second-round picks in 2026, 3 first-round picks in 2027, a second-round pick in 2027, and a third-round pick in 2027. In a perfect world, this team finishes so poorly that they are drafting 1, 2, or 3, and they can take their quarterback organically and not have to trade up or use that capital. And then you're rounding out the rest of the roster with these guys. But you made a great point, Zach, that in trading Quinnen and Sauce, you're talking about the 2 faces of this defense. That's what they are. They were the 2 faces of this defense. You can make the argument because the Jets don't have a quarterback. They were the 2 faces of the team. They were the faces of the organization. And this is Aaron Glenn, who is he's the one who runs the show. I mean, Woody Johnson literally at the introductory press conference for these 2 called Darren Mougey Glenn's sidekick. So it's very clear that like Aaron Glenn is the head honcho. He has full control, full autonomy. He can do whatever he wants. And Mougey oversees the draft and the trades and all that, but nothing is done without Aaron Glenn's stamp of approval. It's very clear now that they are moving this thing in the direction of what they want. All right, guys who did not go, right? I think that's what we probably need to get to. We'll touch upon this very quickly because I heard this from a source. I talked to a team that called on Garrett Wilson. So they checked in on Garrett Wilson a week ago, I was told. And they were told he is untouchable. Not touch. We are not trading Garrett Wilson. Zero chance Garrett Wilson's getting traded. After the Jets traded Sauce Gardner, this team again called the Jets, because once Sauce was gone, all bets were off. And every team around the NFL looked at this and said, everybody's available for the Jets. We can go get whoever we want as long as we're willing to pony it up. So this team called the Jets to try to get through and pick and get Garrett Wilson. I was told the Jets did not answer the phone. So the phone was not even answered on a secondary follow-up on Garrett Wilson. So he was a complete and total untouchable. Not a surprise. I mean, this is a family favorite. Garrett Wilson is an elite level playmaker. And if you're gearing up to make a run at a quarterback, you're going to want to have a legitimate number one receiver on the roster to help him.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, also Garrett's contract, like, it's important to remember, Sauce's contract was structured in a way that favored the Jets quite a bit because it wasn't a lot of guarantees in the way it was structured. The Garrett Wilson one, if we're just talking purely money, was going to be harder to get out of. So, they're not incurring huge dead cap penalties on Sauce other than this year. I'd have to look at the contract again, but so that Garrett was not leaving. Like you said, like the goal now is just building the best environment for the next quarterback. And Garrett Wilson is absolutely a part of that. You need to go and get him somebody else. Maybe you luck out and Adonai Mitchell lives up to his draft billing from a year ago. I actually thought when they traded for Adonai, I thought of the clip of Joe Douglas celebrating when the Colts drafted him, because that meant that they were going to be able to draft Malachi Corley in the third round. But if I have that right, I'm pretty sure
He's actually playing well for the Browns, by the way.
Yeah, Adonai was from last year. Yeah, he led them in rushing one week. Coming back to New York next week. Anyway, so
Corley revenge game. All right, I'm down for it.
Game. And on that note, maybe we switch gears here to, I think the two biggest guys that you and I were talking about as possible guys getting traded away, which is Breece Hall and Jermaine. I'm very curious to see what this is like for them as we go into the locker room this week, as we see them and talk to them, and as they try and take in this new environment where it's pretty out there that they were being, if not shopped around, that they were on the table to be traded. Like, these guys know that. Sounds very like Breece different. Maybe was okay with it. Yeah, two different situations for sure. But exactly Jermaine Johnson literally tweeted a couple weeks ago that he's not leaving because the team told him that, and then they were very clearly answering the phone on him. So I don't know exactly what they told him, but it's going to be interesting. I'm very curious to see how they react.
Well, if they told him what they've told us, it's lies. So what does that matter? Like, they told him, they told him we're not trading him, and then they were taking calls all the way to the 11th hour to try to trade him. And this wasn't just answering the phone. They were calling. They were negotiating. It just didn't end up getting done. The two biggest differences, Zach, and you touched upon this briefly, is Jermaine didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
He didn't. He wants to stay with the Jets. He wants to be here. He wants to re-sign here. He doesn't want to leave the Jets. Breece Hall, all indications are, would welcome a change of scenery. In fact, there was a report out there working to confirm it that Breece wanted a change, that he, like Quinnen Williams, had requested a trade from the Jets and wanted to leave. And there was actually an emoji that followed that Tom Pelissero of NFL Network then screenshotted over him. That was basically Breece Hall with a crying emoji after he realized the Jets were not going to trade him. So I don't think that will particularly go over super well in the locker room when you clearly have a guy that didn't want to be there. Where things stood on Jermaine Johnson and Breece Hall, from what I am told, there was an offer out there for a second-round pick on Jermaine Johnson. The Jets wanted a little bit more. They were unable to negotiate that with the team, so no trade happened, and Jermaine Johnson came back. With Breece Hall, there was an offer on the table for a fourth-round pick from Breece Hall. I was told that it was from the Kansas City Chiefs that were willing to trade for Breece Hall. The Jets were steadfast in wanting a 30. So they wanted a third-round pick for Breece Hall. They were not able to get one, only had a fourth-round offer. Jermaine Johnson, they had a second-round pick, wasn't something they were particularly interested in. And then I saw Josina Anderson report, which I don't know this, but it's what Josina said. Quincy Williams was also on the trade block as well for a fourth-round pick. They did not get that, so they let him go. Jermaine Johnson's under team control, Zach, with that fifth-year option. Not trading Breece and Quincy, in my opinion, those two guys now need to be extended. You need to extend those two guys and bring those guys back. Otherwise, it makes zero sense on why you did not deal them here at the deadline.
Yeah, I think compensatory picks, I feel like people don't entirely understand how those work. You don't get them next year. You get them the year after that. And they're not guaranteed. Yeah. And that also gets canceled out by free agents you sign. And the Jets are going to have over 80 million in cap space, and they're going to sign some guys this offseason. So,
And holes
we
too.
we actually did get a reader question from or listener, not reader. I'm used to being on The Athletic. Lou Giordano asked what the compensatory pick would be for Breece. Is it equivalent or better than the fourth they were being offered? Brandon Stevens is worth, according to Over the Cap, will be worth a 5th round compensatory pick, and he's making $12 million a year. I don't think Breece is going to get more than that in free agency, so it would be a 5th round pick, even if they got a compensatory pick for him, I think. So, and I don't think Quincy's contract would be huge either because he's coming off injuries and not a great season. So, but yeah, to your point, if you weren't going to trade them, you need to resign one, if not both of them, I think. And it depends on the price. Like, you don't want to go crazy paying a running back. You can always franchise tag one of them if you want to. I don't know that I would do that, but if you let them go for nothing, it's not a great look when you already knew you were not going to keep them anyway. So that's going to be something we're going to have our eye on. I do wonder if they're open to keeping Breece Hall. He's looked pretty good lately. This is going to be a running team. I do think he's a good player. So we're going to find out if Breece wants to be here and if the Jets want him long term.
That's the big thing, is does Breece want to be here? Because he's another guy. Quinnen didn't say it. Quinnen was always the perfect soldier. And he was always going to grind, and he was going to fight, and he was going to do everything he could to help the Jets. But, internally, he was stewing. Hall internally and externally stews. And the incessant losing from this organization has taken its toll on him. And you can see that. You can see it when you talk to him, and now it's starting to fracture to the point where he's basically telling people, I want to be traded. Come get me, please. Somebody come get me. I want to be traded. Him now staying here and essentially – Zack, when it comes to running backs, this isn't like a guard or a defensive lineman where the shelf life is significantly longer. Every carry that this guy takes, every hit that this guy takes, it takes off mileage of how long he's going to do it. For him to now be running his head in between a defensive line for a team that very clearly has zero intention of winning games this season, it's a unique dynamic and an interesting dynamic, and I'm not terribly sure how it's going to work out.
I mean, he's going to be motivated to just get some good stats now, is what I would say. That we're going to have. I'm very curious to see how the players respond to all this. Aaron Glenn can go to the microphone and say everything we do is to win right now, but it's so clearly not to win right now anymore. And so, as much as it's easy for us to talk about, this is a rebuild, what they do now doesn't matter. There are still guys in that locker room fighting for their jobs, fighting for their lives, trying to prove themselves, trying to prove they belong for next year. And their regime just kind of told them that this season doesn't matter anymore. So we're going to kind of find out how much Aaron Glenn's coaching and messaging gets through based more on the level of effort than the outcome, I would say. How these games finish and what the final score is doesn't really matter anymore. But if it feels like the players have given up, then I'm going to be more concerned going into next year.
I agree, because, again, it's a full-on cultural rebuild. And I think the biggest thing the Jets are going to have to do both this offseason and next, to quote Jamal Adams, they got to find some dogs. And Quinnen Williams was a dog. Sauce Gardner was a main part of this team who wanted to win. You now need to fill out this roster with guys who want to win, who have experience winning, and who are going to help turn this around, because Quinnen Williams was supposed to be that change of the culture. And Sauce Gardner was supposed to be the change of the culture. And those two guys were shipped away because they did not change the culture during their tenure here. So we are going to see. Real quick, Zach, there is a game this week. I'm just going to go quickly with the pick. You think the Jets beat the Browns, or you think they lose to the Browns?
No, I thought they were going to lose to the Browns before today. So I would say I definitely think they're going to lose now. The Browns defense is very good. Justin Fields, I think, will revert back to form. I don't know how motivated this group's going to be after what just happened. So it's going to be an ugly game, and I think they lose it. Whatever the line is, I take the Browns side of it.
I am right there with you as well, my friend. I'm going to take them as well. This has been a fun day. Interesting, crazy, wild, hectic day, but we got a chance here to do hold on a sec. Oh, this is a good one too. You want to know something? We were just talking about Jermaine.
Yeah.
So here's one, just a little extra tidbit to go off on. The Jets told Quinnen Williams they were not going to trade him as well, and then they traded him. So they said, as well as telling us they were not going to trade him, they called Quinnen Williams into the office and told him, quote, "We are not trading you." But turns out things change, especially with the New York Jets. So, Zach, this has been a blast, buddy. Thank you so much for jumping on twice here. We did the Jets Final Drive breaking news show. We did the Jets Final Drive normal show here. Sauce Gardner gone, Quinnen Williams gone. I had this thought in the back of my head, Zach. Draft night's going to be really goddamn long, dude. Oh, this is going to be a long 2 years covering
The
the
next
draft.
2 years, yeah.
I'm expensing a hotel, man, because I don't. If I don't, I'm not going to get home till like 4
And we're
in the
gonna-
morning and have to turn around and come right on back.
And we're gonna have to be in Indy through the quarterbacks this year too, so it's just gonna be a long off season.
Oh, damn it! I didn't even think. Dang it! I didn't think about that. Oh, we're gonna have to watch the quarterbacks. That's right. Oh, that stinks. Oh, at least we get
sure
to have
does.
that. What is it? The super overrated shrimp cocktail. All right,
There you
thank
go.
you guys across SNY's digital platforms for watching JFD today. It's been an absolute blast with you guys. That was SNY.TV. We were broadcasting on Facebook. We were broadcasting on X. We were broadcasting on, and of course here on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for watching on YouTube, like we said, because you guys get to interact with each other throughout the show, interact with us throughout the show, take some of your questions like we did a little bit before about the compensatory value and all that fun stuff. If you want more of Zack, read him on theathletic.com. He's going to have so much here on the NFL trade deadline. He's also going to be on Flight Plan, part of the Badlands family as well, with Tim McMaster breaking all this down. If you want more of me, column's going to be coming up on SNY.TV as well. There's also an article there now that I really want you guys to go read. Essentially, all of my sources that I have, all of the information I was able to gather on what happened with Quinnen Williams and why it deteriorated to the point where he asked for a trade on so many different occasions. That is on SNY.TV. If you want more of my face, which I don't know why you would, my wife doesn't even really want that, I'm going to be on Jets Mailbag this week with Janae Coakley, so you can start firing your questions away there, or off on those now, however you want to word that. My brain is mush at this point. Send that to me on Twitter, send it to Janae on Twitter, send it to SNY on Twitter, and we will answer those questions in a mailbag later this week. Absolutely, I know there's going to be a ton of questions. This has been a blast for Zack Rosenblatt. I'm Connor Hughes. JFD will see you next week after the Jets-Browns game. Maybe they'll win, but after all these trades, probably not.